Yo, yo. Good afternoon, freedom marchers, freedom family, freedom lovers, and freedom fighters. Snapzilla Gorilla in the building. Hollering at y'all with this quick live stream where I want to go over some timeline. That's what I want to do. I want to go over some timeline, but first I want to get a couple things clear first. Number one, here's the first thing. This is a statement that should end this whole nonsense. All this nonsense surrounding all the semantics around contracts versus offers versus term sheets is that both sides agree to fight each other. That is the first step to making this fight happen. Brian Norman Sr. said that both sides agreed, verbally or otherwise, to fight. That is out of the way. Queen Sister Cameron, salute to you. Don't forget to drop your link. Beautiful mind. Make sure that people know about your mental health, your mental health content. That is very important, right? Especially for black folks. If they are too, how black folks are stubborn about seeking therapy, well, maybe they can go to your channel, drop a little donation, and get some good game. Anyway, that is, this live stream should end right here, right? Both sides agreed to fight. That's what they said. Bill said it. Well, Bill didn't say it, but Brian Norman Sr. said it. Well, I don't know what Bill said. What I heard him say, is that they're waiting for them to sign their part. But nonetheless, oh, no problem, Queen Sister Cameron. Nevertheless, if both sides agree to fight, then what is going on with all the bullshit? What's going on with all these channels trying to make it look like Devin and Bill are ducking Brian Norman Jr.? Well, much of this is being helped by Brian Norman Sr. Point blank and period. Brian Norman Sr., in my opinion, I know I rock with people that got a relationship with Brian Norman Sr. I don't care about none of that. I don't know Brian Norman Sr. I am not beholden to him or anything. I'm speaking my opinion from the outside looking in, because I'm on the outside. Y'all remember that. I'm on the outside. I don't have a relationship with these people. I'm talking about the boxers. I don't have a relationship with the boxing teams or anything like that. So I'm giving the perspective of an enthusiast of boxing who wants to see good fights. And what I'm seeing is a whole lot of sensitivity going on. I'm seeing a whole lot of Ralph Transvant singing in the background. And this is absolutely asinine and ridiculous. Okay? And that's why I want to go over the timeline. I want to go over the timeline because I feel like it's important that we should shut all this shit down. If Brian Norman Sr. and Brian Norman Jr. and Devin agree to fight, bada boom, bada bing, that's it. Let's make the promotion happen. Let's get the promotion going. We should not be, as boxing enthusiasts or boxing fans, concerned with contracts, term sheets, term reports, final draft, first drafts, thousands drafts, your mama's drafts, the giraffe in the zoo. I don't give a fuck about none of that. What we need to be talking about is when they fighting, what they fighting for. Okay? What I understand is in November, what they're fighting for is the WBO championship belt. All right, so we got that out the way. Now we can talk about what the fight is going to look like. Who has a greater chance of winning? Who has a greater chance of losing? But it can't be like that, right? Because everybody's running around trying to make one side look worse than the other. And from my perspective, it started because somebody got sensitive. Happy Thursday, Dad Mike. Cam Ishim. Cam is in. What's good? Salute to you. Muhammad Reef. Do I support America or Israel? I support individual freedom. Just so y'all know, I support individuality. I support individual sovereignty of oneself. That's what I support. And anybody that violates that, I am against. So, or Israel, wait, America, Israel, they go hand in hand. But nonetheless, it started right when Bill Haney was on the Boxing Voice, I believe. Right before Brian Norman Jr. was to fight Jen Sasaki. And they were talking, Brian Norman Sr. came up, and they were having a discussion about Devin and Brian Norman Jr. fighting. And at that point in time, they both agreed to fight next. That should have been a done data or wrap. That should have been it. But this is what happened. Bill brought up a conversation that he and Brian Norman Sr. had, where Bill said that he was going to help Brian Norman Jr. Help the Normans get a bag and ensure that they don't get frozen out, because he understands that people don't really want to fight Brian Norman Jr. And so he's going to make sure that, you know, they get an opportunity to make a bag or whatever the case may be. Now, that is what was said. That was what was said. Now we're talking about both individuals, representatives of both parties, having a conversation where they both agreed to fight next. Where Bill said that me and you, Brian Norman Sr., had a conversation where I said that we will get you a bag, we will not freeze you out, we will make sure that y'all get it popping. And Brian Norman Sr. agreed that the fucking conversation happened. Brian Norman Sr. did not say, nah, Bill, we didn't have that. What are you talking about, Bill? You're lying. We didn't talk about that. Brian Norman Sr. did not say that. Brian Norman Sr. did not deny the conversation. Now, this is where I believe that Bill was trying to get a little something sparked to get a little bit of excitement going. Now, I can't speak to Bill Haney's intent, but I can say that that's what it looked like, because Bill brought up the conversation again not too long after that, but worded it a little differently to make it look like, but not really look like, he may have been trying to son Brian Norman Sr. Right? And once again, even with that new wording, Brian Norman Sr. did not deny the conversation happened, did not deny that Bill reached out to let them know that we will bring you up, that we will help elevate you, that we will not freeze you out, that we will make something pop for you by fighting you next. And Brian Norman Sr. said, nah, I don't really like that. I don't really like how he... But did he not... But did Brian Norman Sr. deny that conversation happened? Did Brian Norman Sr. deny that those were the words that were spoken to him? No. Brian Norman Sr. might not have liked that Bill brought it out in the open, in the public, but he did not deny that conversation. So let's start there. Why is that important to start at? Stephen X, salute to you. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you, my brother. Aki. Help me understand. So that is an important piece to this, because Brian Norman Sr. and Brian Norman and Bill Haney were cool at that point in time. And when Brian Norman brought to Bill, hey man, you know, your son called my son ass. And Bill was like, nah man, let them do that. Bill said it right then. Nah, let them do that. Let them boys do that. They getting ready to fight. Me and you, we got to stay cool. And Brian Norman Sr. said, that's what's up. Right?
Watch out. Vehicle on
so
ahead.
That should have been the end of this whole shit. From that point, after Brian Norman Jr. knocked the shit out of Jen Sasaki's memory, there should have been papers going back and forth, term sheets, whatever sheets you want, toilet paper. Well, I don't give a fuck. We have nothing to do with that. What we should have heard shortly after that is that an announcement where it is said that Devin Haney and Brian Norman Jr. are fighting. But that's not what happened. Right? We heard some shit talking from Tay Jones on a champ side and all this, that, and the third. And I'm like, oh man, I'm so excited. I'm like, yeah, man. Yeah, man. We gonna get a good fight. Yes, this is a fight that could spark and inspire other fighters to take chances, challenge themselves, and test themselves. Because it will be a test for both fighters. It will be a test for Brian Norman Jr. and it will be a test for Devin Haney. Right? So that's what I was looking forward to. But then I'm hearing that Bill is trying to, Bill is reaching out to the team. No one's responding. All this, that, third. And then I hear Adrian Clark come out talking about, oh yeah, we waiting on Pacquiao versus Mario Barrios. Now, mind you, the Haney team are steadfast in their intent and decision to fight the Normans next. They're not talking about waiting for this, fighting for that fight, all this, that, and the third. They're not talking about none of that. So far, one side deviated from what was agreed upon between Brian Norman Sr. and Bill Haney. Since they got on the Boxing Voice that first time and had a gentleman's agreement and said, yeah, our son's gonna fight next. Bada boom, bada bing. Why are we talking about Pacquiao versus motherfucking Mario Barrios? I was flabbergasted. AJ Moore, salute to you. King Fuzy Lit House, what's up? Assalamu alaikum to you. Now, understand that this is what's happening, right? And there are a lot of things going on. You got this YouTuber, that YouTuber. They're talking about it. Brian Norman's going on channels. Bill's going on channels. People are saying different things. These channels are twisting and flipping and jipping and pirouetting narratives and shit like goddamn narrative ballerinas. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? These motherfuckers already agreed to fight. They agreed. They agreed to fight. I don't understand what's happening. Why are we talking about waiting for fights? Why are we talking about this and that? Why is it that we're not talking about, all right, they agreed to fight? Okay, cool. Why is this, what are we doing? Like, for real. It is none of our concern. It's not my concern. It's not y'all concern about term sheets and contracts. Is there an agreement? Two gentlemen came out and made an agreement. And now we motherfuckers going around pissed. And look, I did a breakdown of Brian Norman Jr. versus Jen Sasaki fight. And I highlighted why I believed Devin would win the fight, in my opinion. And I think I was pretty in depth in my analysis and explaining it. Right? I said certain things, and that's what I believe, and that's what it is. There are things that Brian Norman Jr., just as a boxer in general, that he can make improvements on, that Devin, a fighter like Devin, would exploit the shit out of. But also in that live stream, I said that when Bill said what he said, where he said that he reached, they had a conversation, him and Brian Norman Sr., that they would, Bill talked about giving the Normans an opportunity to make a bag and all this, that, and the third, and Brian Norman Sr. did not like that when he said that. I said that was going to be a problem later on. I said that in that live stream.
Approaching a railroad
I said, yeah, Brian Norman Sr. is not going to take that lightly. After you know, in a little bit, when they start talking about fighting each other, that's going to come up, and Brian Norman Sr. is going to feel away, and people are going to exploit that, and that's exactly what the fuck happened, right? Because when Brian Norman Sr. exploded on Bill Haney, and everybody wants to share it like you know, it like Brian Norman Sr. dropped a goddamn atomic bomb about how he gonna, oh, my son gonna step over your son and this, that, and the third. You think you above us and this, that. Oh, you think you the A side and all this shit that he was saying, right? And I'm like, well, okay, you say your son's gonna step over his son. Have y'all agreed to fight? Like, is the fight next? What's going on here? Okay, you say that, but y'all have to actually agree to fight. And so far I'm hearing too many different opposing reports. I'm hearing too much different shit. Is it fair to say that Norman Crew is the obstacle here? I would say that, yes. I would say that. And I'll explain why. Now, Brian Norman Sr. was clearly upset because, from his point of view, Bill was trying to act like the big man on campus. And Brian Norman's like, you think you... I knew that would spring into some bigger shit. Confuser says, man, I hate to say this like this, but this is spiraling into some... And it shouldn't, because they agreed to fight. For all intents and purposes, they agreed to fight. Like, what are we talking about here? Well, it's not just the Normans, in my opinion. It's also these channels that already hate the Haneys. They're looking for every opportunity to shit on the Haneys. So they will side with Brian Norman Jr., even though they have shat on Brian Norman Jr. in the past for the boot situation. But of course, the hate for the Haneys are more intense. And so thus, they gotta hop on the Brian Norman train. It's all good. But yes, they are the obstacle. Because here's my problem. Here's a couple things that Brian Norman Sr. said on 78 Sports TV. Shout out to him. Shout out to 78 Sports TV for that great interview that he gave Brian Norman Jr. Sr. today. And it was a cause for concern for me. And it made me wonder, why are we even listening to Brian Norman Jr. about anything? Senior. Why are we listening to Brian Norman? Why? I don't understand. It doesn't even seem like he's clued in the situation. Why do I say that? Well, because he told 7-8 that, or was it, he mentioned it. He mentioned how somebody asked him if the fight was going to happen or if it was agreed upon. And he said, well, that's what I heard my son say. Huh? You heard your son say it. Do you know or not? Oh, yeah, I heard my son say it, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. What was it? What was it? You're saying this today? And then, shout out to BFTB and Bill Haney last night for breaking down how it works when you send offers and term sheets and all this other shit. How a term sheet is basically a contract that is, with all the terms agreed upon. The term sheet is a contract until it gets sent to the lawyers and they make it official. Where there was a term sheet sent basically to the Normans. And, you know, Brian Norman Sr. kind of brought it up today when he was talking to 78. He's like, well, you know, that's where the confusion come in. People don't know what the fuck they talking about because there are preliminary terms and this and that. To me, it sounds like he got some preliminary shit, which means they probably received a term sheet. But he also said, well, that's the impression I got, is that they received term sheets and not a contract, right? But they're running around telling everybody, oh, we never got a contract. They never sent us a contract to sign. There was a verbal agreement, this, that, and third. You have to pay attention to how people word shit. Because if you ask somebody, because they do this to avoid lying, right? I'm not saying Brian Norman Sr.'s lying. I don't know the guy. What I'm saying is I know how a game is ran, and I understand how people use certain verbiage to convey something to make themselves not look like they're not trying to lie, but they're not trying to give up all the tea. You understand what I'm talking about? So if you ask him, did you guys get a contract? Did you guys agree to? Did you guys get a contract and agree upon a contract? And you say, man, we had a verbal agreement. Both sides verbally agreed to fight, which is very ambiguous, right? Oh, both sides, yeah, we verbally agreed. Well, he didn't answer the question. The question was the contract sent, right? Or what was an offer sent? Because he also says to somebody, oh, well, we never got a contract. No one got a contract. No one signed a contract. Okay, a contract is the final draft. That doesn't mean you didn't get a term sheet. And just because you tell somebody, yeah, there was a verbal agreement, does not mean that you didn't get a term sheet and then start working on the term sheet and sign the term sheet. That doesn't mean that. All that means is that you guys verbally agreed. So I pay attention to things like that. You're not answering the question. You're kind of working around the question to not take any responsibility or some shit. Ravens Nation was good. Salute to you. Kirill Koretsky. Salute. Undeniable Dilemma was good. God is the name of the blanket we throw over the mystery to give it shape. Okay, I like the sound of that. I like the sound of that. Does he talk to his son? I'm assuming he said he heard his son say it, and then he was talking about Adrian Clark. I don't know. I don't know. Adrian Clark apparently is Brian Norman Jr.'s manager. But when he said that, I'm like, okay, so why are we taking anything that he says as gospel? Why is it? Well, because it's convenient for the Devin Haney hater. It's convenient to take Brian Norman Sr.'s word because they hate Devin Haney more, right? So when you say, oh yeah, we both agree verbally, that does not mean that you didn't receive a term sheet. That doesn't mean that you weren't sent an offer, which is the question. Did you get an offer or not? Did you get a term sheet or not? Did you agree? I don't give a fuck what it was, a term sheet, an offer sheet, or whatever sheet. I just want to know if you agreed to fight, period, point blank. And are we working toward locking this in? Because there are a lot of different variables and components in these contracts that are none of our concern. It's none of our concern. But people, they focus on the bullshit, which is the contract language and the contract length and the contract. Fuck all that, man. I'm not a contract lawyer. Y'all ain't contract lawyers. Y'all aren't notary publics. Y'all ain't none of that. So why are you concerned about any of that? We want to hear a date, and that's it. A date and what the card's going to look like. I could care less what the split is. What I do want to know is what is on the line. Are they going to elevate Devin in the WBA to allow him, to fight for a vacant belt? Are they going to allow him to? Are they going to allow them to unify in that fight? If Boots drops his belts, and that's really all I want to know outside of when they're fighting and where. Right? It's supposed to be in Saudi Arabia in November. Okay, let's lock this bitch in. Let's talk about how the fight is going to happen and go from there. All right, no. No, yeah, I know that. Brian Norman Jr. has the WBO belt, but I'm talking about if Boots vacates his belts, they're talking about trying to elevate Devin and allow him and Brian Norman Jr. to fight for the vacant belt that Boots leaves behind and make it a unified match. That's what I'm talking about. So that would be great, right? 2 belts. I think 3 belts. But they're not going to get they're only going to get the one belt. They're only going for the one belt, and then the other one will stay vacant, and there will be some shit, whatever the fuck happens there. But that would be great, wouldn't it? These two fight for unify, and then whoever wins between Pacquiao and Mario Barrios, make it a undisputed championship bout for undisputed. Who do I support? Devin Haney. I support Brian Norman Jr. too, because they both want to make it crack. It appears they're both trying to fight the best, but it's not looking like that on the Brian Norman Jr. side. But of course, you listen to all these channels, there'll be a little confusion, right, about who's really trying to make the fight happen. But from what I've seen, the side that has been more steadfast in making this fight happen, not talking about any other fights, waiting on this, waiting on that. Oh, we're waiting on the offer from Turkey. Oh, we're doing this and do that. I haven't heard any of that from the Haney side. And that's just what it is. So that's the timeline, right? And it continues in the last night and all the drama with all that shit. But at the end of the day, are these two fighting? Right? I've heard from the Haney side that, yeah, we fight. We want to fight next. I haven't heard any other bullshit. Right? And so if they both agree to fight now, if they're both in agreement to fight next, that's what's going to happen. Now, there are those who believe that fight is not going to happen. And if it doesn't happen, it's probably going to be because of all the drama and egoism going on. All the drama surrounding it, right? All these channels trying to create division because they don't want anybody. They want the Haneys on an island by themselves. That's what they want. They want the Haneys on an island, and they will use the Normans to create a divide, right? They want the Haneys in the. I don't know why. I don't know why the YouTubers want that. And listen, I want to point out one YouTuber, one of the most inconsistent YouTubers. And before I get into that, I want to talk about how Brian Norman Sr. said, he mentioned on 78 that people always talk about, well, you didn't say this and you didn't say that, right? And he was like, well, I do all kinds of interviews. You don't watch every interview, so you don't know what I do or don't say. And I would say to that shouldn't be a concern if you're consistent. If you are consistent in your messaging, if you are consistent in the way you speak, right? If you are consistent in how you convey how you feel about a certain thing, if you're consistent in how you're saying this fight is going to happen or that fight is going to happen, if you're consistent in your belief system when you talk, it doesn't matter what platform you go on, it doesn't matter who you talk to or interview with, there should be no contradictions or very, very little contradictions. And if there are, the contradictions should make sense. There should be something that creates a change in your mind that creates that contradiction. But if someone hears you say one thing on one interview and a different thing, a completely different thing in another interview, it's not their fault if they don't watch every other interview you've done to see where the shit connects. It's not our responsibility, the spectators, to chase down every interview you did and make sure that we understand everything you said. Because it should be consistent, generally consistent from one interview to another. It shouldn't be all these different convergences and like, what are you talking about? You said this over there, but you said that over there. What's going on? So if people are calling you out for that, how is it their fault if your messaging isn't consistent? So that brings me to Not Called Pity Pat. He's one such YouTuber that is creating the chaos, in my opinion. Now, he goes by Knockout 69 or whatever the fuck. Ricky Rue was good, putting something on the grill. after Brian Norman gets smoked. This is Devin Haney era, dog. I agree. Bruno's or Hulk Hogan. I don't know. I'm not talking about that. So listen, the bottom line is Knockoff Pity Pat would like you to think that he has an equal amount of problem with Brian Norman Sr. and Bill Haney. But if you look at his videos and the way they're titled, it is clear that he has much more animosity toward Bill Haney. And this is the type of thing that happens across the YouTube space with the boxing YouTubers. And why do I say that? Well, in one video, Queen Mother Shaquila, salute to you. Bless you. God bless you to you. In one video, he says, now this is important. I didn't watch the video. Okay, I didn't watch the video. I will admit that. But I already know how he gets down, right? From when I used to watch him. And he said, in the video, the title, it said, why I can't take the word of Bill Haney or Brian Norman. Okay. So you're making it clear you don't trust either one of them motherfuckers. That you can't take either one of their words for anything. Sugar Free Mars, salute to you. Hey, hey, Stray Godzilla, drop your channel link. Also you too, Sugar Free Mars. Y'all go check out Sugar Free Mars as well. So if you say that you don't trust the word of Bill or Brian Norman, why a day later are you talking about how Brian Norman cooked Bill Haney? Right? You're saying that Brian Norman Sr. cooked and went in on Bill Haney. But before you said you can't trust, you can't take their word, either one of them. So how is it that if you don't take the word of Bill or Brian Norman Sr., why are you hopping on Brian Norman Sr.'s nutsack to go against Bill Haney? But you don't trust either one of them. What was it? I'm Confucius. I'm Confucius. How is that a thing? If you don't trust either one of them, why are you? Because that makes, see, this is what I talk about when I talk about contradictions and lack of integrity. Oh, I don't trust either one of them. You know, and then you go in the BFTB's chat and you say, oh yeah, I've been telling you about Brian Norman. Oh, I've been telling y'all about Brian Norman. I told you. What? But earlier that day, you were talking about how Brian Norman cooked Bill Haney. And then you said Bill apologized. But from what I understand, Bill and Brian Norman apologized. So, but again, I didn't stick around for the whole video because it just gets annoying at some point. I just get annoyed. I get annoyed because that's why I don't understand, because I'm indifferent towards Knockoff Pity Pat. I'm indifferent towards Knockoff Pity Pat. So I can't tolerate too much of what he says because, like, man, what? That's why I don't understand. There are certain channels that people say they don't like, and they talk shit. They take out time out of their day to go talk shit on their channel. They go talk shit in their chat. They go talk shit in their comments. I don't do that to the channels I don't fuck with. You won't see me in their chat trolling. You won't see me in their comments trolling. You won't see me doing none of that. I stay away from them. And every now and then, like I said, if I see something that a crazy wild title, I might watch a little bit of it. And if I can stomach it, I'll watch the whole thing so I can break it down and turn it on its ass and expose the truth. Right? Like I've done to Knockoff Pity Pat and Pity Pat. I've done it to Manager Cooney. I've done it to a few of those channels. But but you won't see me. I don't watch their shit like that. So, it is what it is though. But that's what I'm saying. You talk about how you've been telling us about Brian Norman, but you're using Brian Norman, the situation with Brian Norman going in on Bill to shit on Bill. I mean, it is what it is, And people wonder why you call them out on shit like that. They get mad and sensitive, right? They get sensitive. It makes, it is what it is, But that's what's going on. Like Stephen X said, there's a lot of egoism going on, a lot of sensitivity. Oh, well, Bill said this and Brian Norman said that. At the end of the day, if these dudes is fighting, they should be fighting. Let's fight. Right? All this nonsense, all these exposés and Bill Haney got exposed in a lie again. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what? My bad, I just spit all over the place. Like, what are we talking about? What lies? What are we talking about? And so it's just completely nonsensical to me. So, yeah, fuck all that, man. Fuck all that. They're fighting, right? They agreed, right? Last I heard, they both sides agreed. Now we can get past the bullshit. Now we can stop entertaining the bullshit, and we can just get right into how this fight is going to look. Because I'm very excited to see this fight. I think that, it's going to be a challenge for both fighters. I think that they both need this. I know it probably would have been better for Devin to fight a couple fights, get a couple belts, let Brian Norman get a couple belts and fight for undisputed. But, that's not how it happened. I mean, Devin said what he said about Brian Norman Jr. being ass, and that kind of triggered it, right? They were like, okay, well, let's fight next then. So it was clear to me that Devin was itching for this fight. And so that's what happened, y'all. That's what happened. According to Brian Norman Sr., Brian Norman Jr., he overheard Brian Norman Jr. saying that he agreed to fight. And so therefore, that's what he went with. I don't know. I mean, that's how it is. Me too. Sugar Free Mars says, me too. The fight is going to bring a lot of excitement for the boxing world. Man, I hope so. Rude Exposure says, Devin tried to fight Tio, so Brian Norman is not that big a deal. People saying casual-ish like Devin will be killed. No, and that's why I encourage y'all. I did a breakdown of Brian Norman Jr. versus Jen Sasaki, just to highlight some things that I saw. To not only show that Devin is much better than Jen Sasaki, but also to highlight some holes in Brian Norman Jr.'s game that Devin can exploit. Because again, Brian Norman Jr. is young in the game, right? He's young. So he has a lot of growing to do. He's not yet reached his peak. And so, Devin is peaking right now, I believe, and I think that's going to make the difference. I think those little things, the little fundamentals, because the fundamentals are important. Because so often when you get in the pros, people want to dismiss the fundamentals because they have this strength that they feel that it trumps some of the fundamentals. And the only reason they believe that is because they haven't ran into somebody that understands the fundamentals and how your lack of understanding or your lack of practice of those fundamentals can get you fucked up. And when you run into that, then it's back to like, oh man, I need to do this, I need to do that. That's kind of what happened with Devin, right? When he fought Ryan Garcia. Right? When they talk about the left hook. He's like, oh shit, I need to make sure my hand is at home from now on. It happened to Devin. Even though Ryan Garcia is a fucking drug cheat. Sugar Free Mars says, I wholeheartedly agree. Those small details will make a significant difference in this fight. Absolutely. Absolutely. Blicky Roo says, the breakdown was excellent. Watched it twice. I appreciate that, brother. I appreciate that. Ricky Roo says, fans are projecting their fear of Brian on Devin. They know their favorite fighters wouldn't fight a threat like that with a low popularity. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. And that's another thing these fans need to get over. These fans need to get over their fighters losing. First of all, you're not the fighter, right? You're not the fighter. You should want your fighter to be in exciting fights where they are going to be challenged, where there is a great possibility that they can get beat. Because when they overcome the obstacle and they actually turn out to win, then it makes it that much more rewarding. But like I said, I saw things in Brian. Look, listen, just a couple things. He gassed early, and he was gassed out in the third round. He misses a lot, right? He misses a lot. He gets out of position when he misses. These are things. And when he gets tired, his defense isn't that great. His defense isn't that great. And so it's just a number of things. Parrying body shots way down there with your forearm, like leaving all this. Like, there are certain things that, and Jensen Saki was just ass in general. He was not good. He was not good on that night. Wasn't taking his head off the center line. When his guard was down, his chin was up. His footwork was ass. He faced Brian Norman squarely. And when his high guard was up, his head's down, and he's getting binked up. He's catching a lot of it on the gloves, but even then, you're getting hit. Sugar Free Mars says, Dev can catch him with some mean counters. Absolutely. Joseph Jackson says, but Jen was still hitting Norman too. Exactly. And Brian Norman got hit a lot by a man who had not recovered from getting hit in the back of the head in the first round, but was still trying to get it in and still trying to fight Brian Norman, still trying to stand in the pocket and fight like a warrior. And he had to do that for his country. Y'all don't understand. Well, y'all probably do understand. Let me not patronize y'all. In Japan, I mean, there's those Asian countries. You can't look weak. You can't look like, I give up. No, he couldn't give up. He had to fall on his shield, right? He had to die on his sword or fall on his sword. So Jen Sasaki did a lot of stupid shit out of pride. And he caused himself to get knocked the fuck out. Brian Norman Jr. just happened to hit him, right? He just happened to hit him. Brian Norman Jr.'s fist was there for Jen Sasaki to land on. Wait, no. Jen Sasaki's chin was right there for Brian Norman Jr. to land his hook on. And that's not going to happen with Devin. Sorry. I know y'all think that Devin's going to get sent to the Shadow Realm. But if Devin does lose, it'll probably be by TKO or stoppage. So that's how I look at it. It's Brian Norman Jr. by TKO or stoppage, or Devin by unanimous decision. Those are the only ways I see it happening. Joseph Jackson says, Dev gonna catch B. Norman reaching. Norman reached too much. He reaches too. Yeah, he reaches and misses. I mean, it were times where Jensen Sykes like this. And Brian Norman Jr., he's right there. But Brian Norman Jr. throws his hook. He threw a right hook one time and missed. And Jensen Saki was right there for him. It's just what it is, man. It's just what it is. Right? Yeah. So we'll see. Blicky Rule says, to be fair, Devin has to fix some shit from the Ramirez fight. Oh, of course. Anytime Devin body touched the ropes, I think they're going to go for his body, like Plant versus Benavidez. But Brian Norman Jr. does not go for the body a lot. That's another thing. He took a lot of body shots. Jen Sasaki landed more body shots than Brian Norman even threw. That's another thing I saw. Brian Norman Jr. was head hunting like a motherfucker. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. But I think Devin is smart when it comes to getting landed on the body. He can get caught on the ropes, but I think he will exit the ropes almost immediately before Brian Norman can exploit it. Brian Norman might be able to cut the ring off better than Jose Ramirez, but we haven't really seen that a lot. We haven't really seen it. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, guys, I'm going to get on out of here. I just thought I'd give my little take on it because I feel like, well, these guys, I mean, they agreed to fight from the very beginning. So there shouldn't, before the Jen Sasaki fight. So there shouldn't be any fucking confusion after the Jen Sasaki fight. But people like to exploit. People like to exploit certain things in this space that is kind of like, it kills more fights than it helps. And I believe that people are actively trying to kill this fight. Trying to turn the Normans against the Haneys and make them enemies and make it a huge rivalry that does not need to be there. King Fuse Lit House says, are you worried about Norman Jr. being a big welterweight and Dev just really moving up to 147? Brian Norman is a big welterweight. And because he's big, his muscles require a lot of oxygen. And if Brian Norman Jr. is going to throw those haymakers, those power shots, and miss to that degree, it's not going to matter how big he is. As a matter of fact, it's going to be to his detriment. Because Brian Norman Jr. clearly is blessed with fast twitch muscle fibers, more so than slow twitch. The thing about fast twitch muscle fibers is that they require quite a bit of oxygen and they require quite a bit of energy for a short period of time. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's like a cheetah. A cheetah versus a gazelle. A cheetah is the fastest land animal, but they can only run that fast for a few seconds and then they get tired. Whereas a gazelle, they can run for hours and hours and hours. They're not as fast as cheetahs, but if they can tire the cheetah out and not get caught in those first few seconds, they're getting away. That's one thing we have to that's one thing we have to understand. Brian Norman Jr., to me, it looks like he gets gassed early. If he throws a lot of big shots early on. He throws a lot of big shots, he misses. If Devin can make him miss a lot, round after round after round, and just pot shot, Devin is going to make it look like a clinic. And then Brian Norman Jr. is going to step away from that, having learned that, okay, I need to focus on cardio, I need to focus on accuracy, I need to focus on using my jab, I need to focus on going to the body to slow these faster fighters down. I need to focus on and train on cutting the ring off better. So these are things that I feel like it might happen. Sugar Free Mars says, if he was missing with Sasaki, who wasn't a pure boxer, he is going to have trouble with Devin. Absolutely. Who has elite movement. I question if he'll be able to successfully keep up with Devin. I don't think he will. And it doesn't matter what size the ring is either. It doesn't matter what, right? Because Devin's ring IQ is very high. And I don't know if Brian Norman ring IQ is that high. I think he is a stand in the pocket fighter. I think he's an aggressive, he's going to be aggressive. He's going to be looking to land some big shots. And he kind of loads up too. He loads up. He winds up, right? And so not very much, but he does. And so these are things that I feel like Devin could exploit that. Now there are things that Brian Norman Jr. can exploit with Devin, right? Catch him early with a big shot, and it might, catch him early with a big shot. Devin might not go down. Devin might not get knocked down. He might not even get hurt that much. If you catch him with a big shot early in the fight, ring his bells a little bit, it might take him a while to recover, which will take away his legs for a little bit. But I think Devin has the durability to recover his legs soon enough to kind of like, okay, he might have to take a couple rounds off. But Brian Norman Jr., if he buzzes Devin early, he would have to get him out of there by the third or fourth round. If he can't get him out of there by the third, fourth, or fifth round, then I think he's going to have a problem after that. So, yeah. Anyway, guys, let me get on off of here. I got to get back to work. Rodney Natimo, salute to you. L Hitman X, salute. I can't wait to see it either, Sugar Free Mars. Intelligent Savage, what's good, brother? Yeah, let's go get it. Let's go get it. Let's stop with the game, YouTubers. Y'all are doing a disservice to the people that you actually should be servicing, which are the fans, right? The fans, the people that support you, the people that aren't as knowledgeable as y'all. Y'all exploit their ignorance to push an agenda, to push a narrative. That's not what we should be doing, man. We should be talking about these big fights. So, what's my body count? Uncle Vuzi, I don't understand why that's a question. I don't understand. Y'all are wild, bro. Yeah, that's a wild question. I'm not going to answer that. That's crazy. Anyway, thank you guys for coming through. Thank you for hitting the like button. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for the support. And, man, listen, at the end of the day, listen, boxing managers, I don't know why y'all fall for these games that these people play. They set y'all up all the time. They set y'all up in their YouTube. So let's, right, Sugar Free Mars? I mean, get out of here with that nonsense. Anyway, yeah, it is what it is, man. Let's make this fight happen. I want to see it. I want to see it. It's going to be exciting. And it might be the fight of the year. I can see it being fight of the year. So let's make it happen. Much love, like, share, subscribe, and we'll keep marching forward toward freedom. Peace.